I'm Cynthia Becker, and I'm the host of the reality series CPS The Horror Stories. I'm not an attorney or a social worker, but I am a mother who had her children kidnapped by Child Protective Services in 2016. And after 2 years of fighting, I was given my kids back in 2018. Each of the families that I interview have a horrific story that needs to be heard by others to understand the devastation, corruption, and traumatic events that are caused by the Department of CPS. Make no mistake, child removals have little to do with protecting kids anymore. Instead, it's billions of dollars in government contracts and an ever-growing army of highly paid caseworkers seems to be the main objective of this heartbreaking epidemic of government-sanctioned kidnapping. And child protection is one of the biggest businesses in the country, and we actually spend over $12 billion a year on it. So, to start us off this morning, I am with Kim. Kim, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Kimberly. I live in Wisconsin, and I got walked into this nightmare December 20th of 2019. I actually was hit by a car, and when I went down to this police station to fill out a report, I was getting ready to leave, and they said, "Oh, you're supposed to stay here." I said, "What do you mean?" And they said, "Well, Detective McHugh was just over at your house. He's looking for you, and he's on his way down here to talk to you." I'm like, "All right, whatever." So he and a social worker came down to the police station to talk to me and informed me that they had yanked 3 of my grandkids out of school and my oldest granddaughter out of my home, because my oldest granddaughter was at my home at the time doing homeschooling, and my youngest granddaughter, who was with her father, who wasn't even 2 yet. And they were taking them into custody because they received a complaint. And amongst the things in the complaint, it was the oldest child is the one that's abused. She's only allowed to eat rice all the time, every meal, every day. That's all she can have. She's only allowed to stand in the kitchen. She's not allowed to play with her siblings or watch TV or sit down. She has to stand all day long, and she has to stand away from the TV so she can't see it. And she has to sleep on the floor. And what else was it? And I keep her isolated. The reason she's homeschooled is because I isolate her so that she can't tell anybody she's being abused. So that was the complaint that brought them out to my house. When they got to my house, I was not home. My husband was sleeping on the couch, and my granddaughter was not standing in the kitchen, but sitting at the table, surfing on her own laptop and chatting with her aunt on her cell phone that she owns, and eating Little Caesar pizza, not rice. So right off the bat, as soon as they walked up, everything in the complaint was already proven false. And they took all the kids down to the police station and gave them a forensic interview. And they got most of the information from my 7-year-old disabled granddaughter, who is basically auditioning to be an actress. I mean, if you ask her to tell you something, she'll just run with it, and she'll make up stories out of nothing. Like, they asked her, "Tell me what it's like to be standing in a timeout," and she's mimicking, does stand like this, but not in my direction. She's like, "Oh, you got to stand really still. Your hands have to be down at your sides. You're not allowed to touch. You're not allowed to scratch. You're not allowed to do anything. And you have to stand there the whole time. And you can't watch TV. You have to face cabinets." So where she gets this stuff, I don't know. But they got most of the information from her. And then when they go, "Well, I heard, who does all the cooking?" And she goes, "Well, Grandma's teaching me how to cook, so we both do it." And she goes, "Well, she says you do all the cooking." And she goes, "No." She goes, "That's not true." She goes, "Me and Grandma both do the cooking." And then, and that's pretty much how the interviews went. Whenever it's incorrect, the social worker would say, "Now tell me the truth, not lie." So now why don't you tell me the truth? Because we already know how it really happened. So that's how the kids got into CPS custody. And after that, I was their legal guardian. So after they got them into custody, they said their parents were drug addicts, but they refused to do a drug test on them. They said that I was abusive, and I was so abusive that it was so egregious they had to take them out of the house right then. They couldn't even put a safety plan in place or try to work with the family unit. They had to take them right away. And when they got them in custody, they did nothing with them. They were in foster care literally from December 20th until June 10th, a month ago or 2 months ago. We just had a hearing where we got the disposition. Prior to that, when we were trying to work on the case and have CPS come for meetings or do drug tests or whatever they wanted of us, they said, "Oh, we can't do any of that yet. We don't even have a court order." I said, "What do you mean you don't have a court order?" They said, "Well, the children haven't even been deemed to be in need of protection at this time." I said, "What are you talking about?" They've been in care since December. She goes, well, yeah, but we haven't had our court date, so the judge hasn't actually given us a court order and said that we can do this. And I said, oh, well, that's a problem. So I went down, about 2 weeks later, after I finally got all the stuff done, I went down to Green Bay and filed a federal lawsuit, which I have not been, they haven't told me if it's been approved or anything yet. I'm still waiting because I guess they can take as long as they want. But I filed a federal lawsuit based on the facts that they discriminated against my son and his girlfriend for disabilities. They violated my Fourth Amendment illegal search and seizure, and they violated my 14th Amendment for due process, the right to due process. And now and they don't take any meetings or anything yet. And now I found this place. Apparently they get paid by Title IV funding, and I just became aware of this. So I'm trying to get a hold of Title IV funding wherever they're out of and let them know that CPS is not qualified to be accepting reimbursements for my kids, because there's two things in order to qualify for federal funding is you have to make reasonable efforts to keep the children in the home. And if you can't keep them in the home, you have to make reasonable efforts to reunify them once you take them out of the home, which none of that has been done. They're refusing to pay for any classes they've told us we've had to take, like parenting classes, anger management, all that kind of stuff. They said we have to pay for it on our own. They're not paying for any of it, but yet that's what the funding's meant for. They're supposed to be paying for that stuff. So that's my story in a nutshell. You have any questions?
Absolutely. So, really fast, have any of you guys, any of the adults, been in foster care or dealt with CPS prior to this?
I was in foster care as a child. I was adopted at the age of 7, and I went into foster care just prior to my second birthday. And my sister, my biological sister, she's trying to have contact with the kids, and they told her she's not really related to me anymore because I was adopted. So once I became adopted, I'm no longer her biological sister. So she doesn't qualify for trying to get custody or trying to have visitation or.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so the caseworker informed me that we are no longer related. I said, oh, that's interesting.
Oh God, that.
Yep. So I've been trying to find something in black and white that states otherwise. I don't even know who I would talk to about something like that.
Okay, so let's talk about you for a minute then.
Okay.
How was your experience in foster care?
My experience, I can't honestly say it was bad because I was so little, I don't even recall it. I remember vaguely at 7 years old going to a courthouse and being adopted, but I don't really remember much leading up to that, so I can't say good or bad was about it.
Okay. And why were you put into the system?
My biological parents were alcoholics, and they would leave my 6-year-old sibling home to take care of my 4-year-old brother and me, who was a newborn. And my 6-year-old sister would take us down to the cellar and hide when the police came over. And one time my dad came home from the bar, and he came in the house and he told my sister, I'm going to go shoot your mother. And so he grabbed the gun out of the drawer and went down to the bar and shot her. And so it was like crazy.
Did that?
Yeah, he went down to the bar and shot my mom.
Your father did?
Yeah, my biological father. You might have talked to my sister because she's the one that connected me with you, Renee Zappart. She has been telling me I should come on and do an interview with you and stuff. So you may have actually spoke with her.
Did she do an interview or no?
She might have through emails, but not on live TV or Facebook.
Okay. Wow, that's crazy.
Yep. So I lived in foster care until I was 18. When I was 16, my biological siblings came and found me. And so I've known my biological family since I was 16.
So now you don't remember any of that stuff happening with your mom and father? Because
I don't remember any of the stuff that led to me being taken out of the home. I just remember my biological sisters and brother would come visit me in foster home every now and then.
Now, where did they go? Were they in the foster system?
Well, my 2 older sisters, Renee and Debbie, they were like teenagers already. And so because of all the chaos and drama, they didn't want to be a part of it. And they had to grow up before their time. so they basically took off and ran away from home so they wouldn't get removed from the home. And so that left my 6-year-old sister, my 4-year-old brother, and me, who was a newborn, in the care of my 6-year-old. And one sister, older sister, went to Chicago, and the other one went to Utah. So they were pretty much out of the family then, and only the three of us had to deal with CPS. And my brother and sister, they were molested and abused something fierce. And my brother was adopted like I was. My sister Gail, she was tossed from home to home. She was in an orphanage back in that day. They had like big buildings, like schools, like house kids. That's back in the day of the orphanages. And she was in there. And she finally, when she was 12, ran away from home, and she was gone for like 4 months. And she called up her social worker and said, "I'm not coming back unless you let me go live with my mom." And they said, "Well, you can't do that." And she goes, "Well, then I'm not coming back." So they finally gave in and said she could go live with her mom. She says, "Just remember, if I come back and you try to take me again, I'll just take off again." So she ended up getting to go back to our mom when she was 12. But my brother and I were adopted.
When you say your mom, I thought you said that your mom was shot.
She was shot, but she survived. She
Oh,
went, yeah, she went to court and begged the judge not to put him in prison or put him in jail because she said she needed him to support the household. He was the only one earning any money. So I guess he didn't go to prison or anything.
wow.
Yeah.
That's super interesting.
Yeah, I was told many times I should write a book. Between they tried kidnapping me from foster care. My mom was shot by my dad. We were with our aunt first, and then CPS removed us from our aunt because my dad went over and beat her up and said, "You're not taking my kids." So then we had to be put in foster care because he was over there all the time causing problems.
Sorry. There's so much information.
Right.
Yeah.
I've actually been on both sides of the spectrum. I've been a foster child and I've been a foster parent. So
Oh,
I've seen both sides of the story.
okay. So why couldn't you live with your mom?
Well, because my mom wouldn't stay away from my dad.
Okay.
And there was domestic violence and stuff, and she wouldn't get away from it. And she wouldn't stop drinking. And so it was,
Healthy.
yeah.
Okay. Do you have a relationship with your mom?
No, all my siblings, biological and adopted, are all dead now. But I did have a relationship with my birth mom before she died and my birth dad.
Now, all of your siblings have passed away?
No, I have my sister Gail. She's in Florida. My brother Tony, he's a drug addict and on the street somewhere. We don't know where he is at. I'm trying to find him. My sister Renee has been involved with this stuff with me. And then my sister Debbie, she just died. I believe she died of Lou Gehrig's disease. She lives in Utah and she just died like a year ago.
Wow. Now, how many children do you have?
I have one child.
Okay. And sorry, last question. You said that your experience in the foster system you don't really remember because you were young, but what about, you said you were adopted. How about your adopted family? Did they treat you well?
For the most part, I mean, they were more like my grandma and grandpa than they were my mom and dad because they were older when they got me. So I would always be embarrassed and stuff like when they'd come to school because I think people would think they were my grandparents. And so because they were my grandparents, they were a little more short fused because they've already raised their kids. And so they had a little less tolerance than maybe younger parents would have had. And so they were kind of snappy, sooner than they should have been, that sort of thing.
Got it. Now, you and your siblings, you said that you've talked about your experiences in the foster system because you said your brother was molested?
My brother was adopted, and his last name's Holt. Now, he was adopted by a famous football team coach. I don't remember who the coach was, but he was adopted by a famous football coach. And they used to put his head in the toilet and give him swirlies and all kinds of stuff. They treated him something horrible.
And you said he was the one that was molested?
No, my sister was my 6-year-old sister.
Okay.
She was molested by the older boys that were in the foster homes. They were the actual foster parents' kids too. They weren't other foster kids. They were the foster parents' kids.
Ugh.
And my granddaughter, She's been molested within 30 days of being removed from my house. She was molested, and they had to move a boy out of the house that she was housed with. He was like 12 years old and she was 7. And it's like, I don't understand. We managed to get that child to almost 8 years old and she never got molested, and she's out of the house less than 30 days and she's been molested. Unbelievable.
Yeah, we'll get there in a second because I have a lot of questions about that. And then when you turned 18, did you move out of your...
I left when I was 16. I
Okay.
just kind of took off and did my own thing. I went and hooked up with my real family and got to know them, and went to Ohio where I was from, and kind of went to meet my real siblings and my real parents and stuff.
Okay. All right. Um, so now how old is your child?
My child is 30. He was born in 88. 32.
You do. Okay. And how many children does he have?
He has 5. 4.
4?
Yeah, 4.
Okay.
Sorry.
And you said that he's disabled?
Yeah.
What
He
may
has
I...
bipolar, and so does his mother. So I wasn't taking care of the kids though because of their disability, but because he was disabled, he got into some criminal charges, some trouble, and so they made him go into a hospital for 90 days to determine if he was competent to stand trial. So because he was away, him and the kid's mom decided to have me take care of the kids while he was away, and it was only supposed to be temporary, with the exception of my one grandson who has epilepsy and autism. I would have kept him until he was 18 because I've had him since birth. Just because he has so many difficulties, they wouldn't really know how to deal with that stuff. So I've always had him, but I had the kids since May, I think, of 19. And then all of a sudden, my next door neighbor, Lois Burry, who was a town drunk, decided she got mad at me. I mean, I used to do so much for that woman. I'd pay her 4 days a week to come clean my house. I'd give her beers out of the refrigerator. I mean, I'd give her rides places, everything. And then she turns around when she gets pissed off because she got addicted because she wasn't paying her bills, and turns me in and says that I'm abusing the kids and I'm making them stand all day long in the kitchen and the child that I was accused of abusing, everything she did, she led the way for the younger kids. I mean, she's been in gymnastics and cheerleading and guitar lessons, piano lessons. She's done it all, and eventually they just all fell to the wayside because she didn't want to do her part in practice and stuff. So when you listen to CPS say, "Oh, I treated my biological grandkids like gold, but I treated her like Cinderella," it's like everything the little kids got, she got first, because she's my step grandchild, because she's my son's girlfriend's biological daughter, but not my son's daughter. So she's actually lived with me since she was 4 years old, because they were afraid to have her in the house because she was always telling ridiculous lies at school. She went to school one time when she was in kindergarten and told them I kicked her in the head. And so my son was afraid to be around her because he was afraid she was going to accuse him of something sexual. So she's been staying with me actually since she's been 3 years old. And that kid was spoiled rotten. She had things in my house she would have never got anywhere else.
Now you said that you were a foster mom.
Right.
Is this your foster child? Your son is your foster son, and then you
No,
adopted
he's
him?
my biological son.
Oh, okay.
But I do have contact with my foster children. I had my foster daughter living with me for a while because she didn't have a place to go.
How many children did you foster?
I was a foster parent for about 5 years, and I had one boy first, and then he had to move because my son stabbed him when my son was still living at home. So they had to move him, and then they brought me 2 girls because they had to shut down a foster home for abuse. And then I had the 2 girls for 4 or 5 years, and then I ended up going through a divorce, domestic violence and stuff. So they shut down my foster home because my foster daughter went to school and told him that my husband tried to kill me, and I didn't report it before she did. So they closed my home because of that, because I didn't want to report it because I was trying to adopt them, and I thought, oh great, this is all going on, this is going to screw this up now. So I kind of took a pause before I reported it, and she reported it before I did, so they closed my home. So
Wow.
yeah, it's been crazy.
So you only have one biological child.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And how many kids does he have biologically?
He has 4. He has 2 girls and 2 boys.
Okay, and then There's 5 kids total.
Right. The 5th one is his girlfriend's daughter from a previous relationship.
Now, is the girlfriend the mother of all the...
She's the mother of his 2 girls. So she's got 3 girls altogether. And then the 2 boys are the product of another relationship he was in.
Okay, is that mother involved?
Sporadically. For 3 years, we didn't know where she was or what was going on with her. And she has a mental health condition because she was doing too many drugs. And we think she has schizophrenia because she talks to TVs and smoke detectors and stuff. But yeah, so she pops in and out when she's lucid and normal. And then when she's not normal, she pops back out.
And how old are the children, you said?
Is 10, is 8. He'll be 8 in October. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the girls?
8 in January and 2 in February. And these kids were doing so much when they took them. They were in dance class. And my grandson, he was like the lead of his dance class because a lot of boys don't take dance. So he was the only boy in his class. So they always gave him the lead of everything. And all the girls would have to spoon over him and stuff because he was the only boy in the class. And now he don't get to take that anymore.
Now, you have 2 grandkids that are 8 years old?
Yeah, they're my Irish twins apart. It belongs to Holly and to Carly. So there's a little bit of swapping going on there, I think.
Yeah. I can't imagine that.
Right.
Wow, okay. That's crazy. I'd pull my hair out. Just kidding. Okay, so now let's go to the first day. Oh, how old is the granddaughter from the girlfriend?
Oh, she's 11. She'll be 12 in September.
Okay.
She's
So-
a 9/11 baby.
Oh, wow. So we have from 12 all the way to 2.
Right.
Okay. Let's go to the first day that CPS got involved. You said that the neighbor, the lady that you were helping out, was the
Yeah.
one.
Actually, to tell you the truth, I think I've been kind of harassed until they finally got the grandkids because literally since Shalena's been in kindergarten and she's in 7th grade now, every 6 months we had an investigation and they'd take turns. It'd be about my son's house and him doing drugs or my house and me abusing him or whatever, not sleeping on the floor, standing in the kitchen, all that. So they just took turns harassing us until they could finally get the kids away from me. And I think the only reason they were able to do that is because I was not home. Because they've came to my home before and I'm like, what do you want to know? You know, I'll step outside and I'll talk to them and stuff, but you're not coming in my house. And actually that was a big reason why I was doing homeschooling because they're in your life, they're in your business. They come up there and they don't tell you, they just pop in and then they show up on your doorstep and it's like, no, we're not doing all that. We have, you know, we live in America. We're free, the land of the free.
So when you were being harassed by them, were they coming to your house and questioning you or anything like that?
Yeah, they would come to the house, they'd open up an investigation, they'd stay for 30 or 60 days, and then they'd close the investigation because they wouldn't be able to open it because they wanted me to give them their case. You know, come on in, visit my house and all that. No, we're not doing that. So I wouldn't give them anything. Well, this is the one time they happened to, I think they were watching my house because my granddaughter, and I pulled her out of school because they weren't teaching her right. And I enrolled her in a private academy online. It was costing me $350 a month to have her enrolled in that class. And right after I took her and enrolled her back, you know, after she made some headway and gains, she wanted to go back to school so she could see her friends and stuff. She went back to school on December 8th, and on December 20th, they pulled the kids out. So I think that there was something cooking because the school was really on me. They wanted her to come back to school, and I'm thinking now it had something to do with that because they wanted to get the kids back in school so they could try and sever the relationship or something.
Let me think about that for a second, because I see your point of view.
It was just too coincidental. I mean, back to school on December 8th. I just happened. I'm a homebody. I'm actually diagnosed as agoraphobia because I never leave my house and I don't like crowds, and I never leave my house. And this one time, they happened to catch me out of the house, and my granddaughter had been back in school 10 days, literally. And now all of a sudden, and that's the one that gave them all the information at school when they went up to talk to her, because they didn't talk to my grandson because he's autistic, and they didn't think they could get any information from him. And my grandson didn't give him much because he's shy and he don't like people he don't know. So he started crying right away when they got him. But she's, my prima donna. She likes to act and, oh, you want to know about the standing? Oh yeah, we do all that down there. She's laughing and crawling. I could tell she was crawling around on the floor when she was talking because they said, come on, sit up in the seat now and talk to me. So she was having fun with it. She didn't realize the problem and trouble she was causing on make believe,
They don't.
Right. I
Yeah.
mean, to tell you about her make believe, she went to school one day and she came and told me, she goes, Grandma, I'm going to school. She goes, don't touch the babies. They're in school and I'll pick them up when I get home. And so I went to go to my bedroom after she left, and she had every single baby doll she had lined up down the hallway with paper and pencil and stuff. So she acted this all out before she went to school. So this is the kind of thing what she did. And another thing, the child, they think I feed that child information. I don't. Washing her hands one day, or she didn't wash her hands after going to the bathroom. So I was explaining to her, because I'm in the medical profession, you really need to wash your hands when you go to the bathroom, because you could get an infection like staph or MRSA, and that can get really bad, and you can end up dying from it. Here, just listening to me converse, and I said, you can end up dying from it. By 7 years old, I didn't even know she knew what death meant. And she goes, bye. Just jumped in a conversation that had nothing to do with her. So that's the kind of child she is. She's just very flamboyant, and you can never know what you're going to expect to come out of her mouth.
Right. Now, one thing that you had brought up was that they accused your son of using drugs.
Right.
Has he ever used drugs?
Oh yeah, he's been he's not a drug addict. He can take it or leave it, but he's a marijuana smoker, and it's on the cusp of being legal and everything. And the reason they're calling him a drug addict is because one of the times that they investigated him, went to school and told him that there was needles in his van, which wasn't true, because he don't do needles. He just he did meth for a while, but then when CPS got involved, they did a urine test and it was positive, and then they did another one like 3 or 4 days later and it was still positive. So based on that was 3 years ago. They're still calling him a drug addict. It's like, okay, well, let's see if he's still doing drugs. Why don't you test him now? So they would call them up every Monday. Where do you want me to go? I'm ready to do my drug test. No, we don't need it. No, we don't need it. Stop calling us. We can't give it to you yet because the kids don't even have a court order. So they just refused to deal with this case at all before June. So it's like, the kids were kidnapped and held hostage against their will, because they weren't, I still to this day have not seen my grandkids at all. And I find little quirky ways to get my nose in there so they know I'm still around. Like I'll buy them a pack of gum or something. I'll tell them to give it to them, and they'll say, Grandma got you this or whatever. So I find my little ways of getting involved and letting them know I still love them. But, I've had no contact, and I was all their guardians at once. They terminated my guardianship of the 4. They terminated guardianship of those, but then it was a different story because I've had him since birth. So they had his separate. And I said, you better pack a lunch, because you're going to have to pry my cold, dead hands off that child's body before you get your hands on him. The other ones, I let them go because I had an idiot for an attorney, and he wasn't even cross-examining nobody. He wasn't trying to mitigate any damages that the other side was causing. And I said, you know what? Before you let her get up there and trash me for 45 minutes, I'm just going to go ahead and concede. I'll let them drop the guardianship of those 4, and I'll fight for. And that's why they weren't going to court to get disposition, because they wanted to eliminate me as a guardian before they did that. And so they're scheduled to have a trial for that. And the judge goes, well, how much time are you going to need for your trial? And the prosecuting attorney says, well, I'm only going to need about an hour and a half. But Ms. Howell I guess she's going to cross-examine all of CPS's workers, so she's going to probably need a day or 2. I said, yeah, probably all that and then some. I'm going to need all that. So then they postponed it, and COVID-19 got involved, and now nobody's doing court and stuff. So they just finally their attorney said, look, tell her if she pleads to a CHIPS case and agrees to have a CHIPS order, and we'll let her have visitation and reunification if she agrees to a CHIPS case, and we'll withdraw the motion to terminate guardianship. And now, mind you, I haven't had any contact with since December 20th. And I thought, you know what? Whatever they want to do, if it's going to get me, do whatever they say. So I agreed to the CHIPS case. That was 3 months ago. I still haven't seen the child. So I'm getting ready to go back to court and tell them that they lied to me and they didn't honor their end of the agreement. And then they made just the father and Holly, the mother, get involved in that same case. They said that I couldn't have visitation if all 3 of us didn't agree to a CHIPS case. And they said, well, we don't want to agree because the case wasn't even about us. There was no complaints about us. Why do we have to agree to something? Because if you don't think Kim's not going to have visitation. And I said, I would have just said, you know what? Well, then I hate it for her, but I'm not going to take it. You know, they should have fought it because they might have the kids right now if they went to court because there was literally no complaints on them. And matter of fact, the daughter, Inslee, who just turned 2 in February, she was actually down by at the time when the kids were removed, and CPS showed up here to get already had the kids from school, and they asked my husband where the baby was, and he said, well, she's down by her dad. So they went down there and got her from him, and he says, well, I'm not releasing, you know, the complaint was about my mom. If you want me to keep her and not send her back down there, I won't. But unless you have a warrant, you're not taking the child out of this house. And they said, all right, well, we'll just arrest you for disorderly conduct and we'll take her anyways. So he ended up having to give the child to her because they were going to arrest him regardless. He's being a month after they got taken out of the house. Now they've charged him with sexual assault of the oldest child who's never even lived in his house. And all the facts of the story was supposedly when it happened when her mom was pregnant, working at McDonald's in the trailer that they live in. Well, when her mom was pregnant, they didn't live in a trailer. And when her mom was pregnant, Casey and Holly weren't even together. He had some girl by the name of Nicole, and he was living out in the country with her. So it's like none of the stuff she says even is accurate. And then she says, she goes, well, he was kissing on my lips and kissing on my neck. And then he tried to put it in, but I was too small. So he said I had to grow a little bit. And then a little bit later, he walked me into the bathroom, put me on top of the washer, and had sex with me.
Who said this?
My 11-year-old granddaughter. And I'm like, first of all, what rapist is going to say, you know, you're a little small. We're going to have to wait till you get a little more mature. Seriously? And why would he say we got to wait till you get older and then walk her into the bathroom and plop her up on a washer and dryer? And, you know, she described a penis, but you know what penis she described? I told you I'm breeding my dogs. We walked in one day from the store, and they must have just got done doing it because the dog's thing was hanging out. So she says it's like a red rocket, it's pointed, and it's wet to the touch. She was describing the dog, not his.
Who did she this now she actually did say these things, or this is she supposedly said this stuff?
She supposedly said this stuff, but what happened is how it came out was when she was first placed in foster care. She went up to her foster mom and said, I got a secret, I'm not telling you though. And then her foster mom goes, well, what's your secret? Oh, I was sexually molested. So I mean, you aren't going to say nothing and then you just spit it out automatically. So the foster mom called up CPS. CPS took her, I don't know, 45 minutes or an hour away and had her visit with sexual abuse something. I want her to be, this supposedly happened 2 years ago. And he goes, well, I want her to be evaluated by a doctor. Oh, we're not going to do that because there won't be any evidence left. He goes, yes, there will. There may not be my DNA, but there will be trauma. If I had sex with a virgin, there's going to be tearing, there's going to be scarring. There'd be something that you can find. We're not going to do that.
Or even prove that she has had sex.
Right, to even see if because her hymen would still be intact if she hadn't had sex. And even that, you would think they'd want to at least test her for sexual transmitted diseases, you know, to make sure they didn't do nothing because they're afraid to do anything because they're afraid of what the results might be. Because Casey said, well, you better prep her good because she's going to be testifying. He goes, I'm not taking a deal. He goes, not happening. He goes, I'm going right. Matter of fact, I'm not even going to listen to the deals. He goes, I'm telling the DA set up for trial. I'm going to trial. And so now they're trying to give them all kinds of deals and stuff because they don't want to get these kids on the stand because they know that these kids said things in the heat of a moment when they were when the conversation was being driven. And when they get up on the stand, they're not going to be able to drive the conversation, so they don't know what's going to come out of their mouths. My lawyer is even afraid to talk to him. I said, you know what? Let me worry about, because I get charged with all this. I get charged with 4 counts of emotional trauma, 1 count of great bodily harm, and another one of neglect. And I says, you know, we're going to trial for that. And it started from 2 years in prison and 5 years probation. Now they're down to, I don't know how much probation, but 30 days in jail. It happened. And I says, did they hear you the first time? Tell them to set it for trial. I'm not talking about a deal. I'm not pleading something I didn't do. I says, and you can't prove that it happened because there's other than the 7-year-old being a drama queen and then them feeding the oldest on what to say, that's literally all they have. They have no pictures of marks. They have no medical records, no x-rays of broken bones, no weight charts that somebody's 40 pounds underweight because she's only eating rice. Literally nothing. They have nothing, no witnesses. So they literally have to.
And even regardless of her weight, she would have a lot of, forgive me because my brain is not functioning. She'd be malnutrition,
Right.
protein.
Right. And that was another thing too, because they couldn't find enough to throw at me. They started throwing real things like, okay, I cut her hair. Well, actually, I didn't. Her mother did, but I didn't care because it's her mother. And they said, oh, you cut her hair? Well, we'll just write that down because that's abuse. Since when? I've cut her hair before. And then they said, well, she's only allowed to eat milk or water with meals. I said, well, what would you like me to give her? A joint and some beer? I mean, because I had a rule, because they otherwise the kids would always want to have juice or Kool-Aid or soda or something. So I had a meal. There's 3 meals a day. One meal you get juice, one meal you get water, one meal you get milk. And then at nighttime or whatever, they'd have a snack. But because I gave them water and milk for meals, that was abusive.
Those are my kids' choices.
Right, exactly. I said that's why I got sarcastic. I said, what would you like me to give them? A beer and a joint? I mean, because the only thing else is sugar. If I would have given them soda or Kool-Aid, they would have made a big deal out of that. Oh, you're rotting your kids' teeth and stuff. And all you do is give them sugar. So that was a no-win situation.
Okay, let's pause and go back again. Let's go back to the first day that CPS came and they took the kids. So you're gone.
Mm-hmm.
And they took some from school, correct?
Yep.
And 1 or 2 from the house?
There was 2 at home, but one was by her father and one was at my house. And then there was 3 kids in school.
And you were at the police station.
Right, reporting being hit by a car.
Right. And then they said to just stay here, that the detective is coming.
Yeah, as I was turning to walk away, they go, oh no, Miss Howell, you got to stay here because Detective McHugh wants to talk to you. What, huh? Well, he'll explain when he gets here. So he showed up at the police station with Brianna Zipper, the caseworker, and informed me that the kids were taken, they're not coming back, and he went over told me about some of the allegations, and then he let me go home and told me to come back the next day so he could interview me again, and I went in, and he arrested me the next day, and I went to jail. So.
Wait. Why were you arrested?
Because of the abuse that I supposedly caused. Because that apparently what caused the emotional trauma. Her and her brother were told to beat on a daily basis when she didn't steal. When she would steal their stuff, they were allowed to beat her up. I said, but they have an autistic one, and he doesn't know how to lie. He says, no, the rule is we're not allowed to hit each other. That's the drama queen. And I says, and if I could talk to her, I would say, what happens if you steal from somebody? She would say, oh, well, we have to do that person's chores that day, because that was the punishment. Problem was stealing, and I didn't know how to deal with it. So I said, you know what? When you steal from your brothers and sisters, whoever you stole from, you get to do their chores for the day to make up for it. And that was the punishment, not beat your sister up until she's bloody or whatever godforsaken thing she said.
Okay, can you repeat that story? But who is who? Because I'm sorry, I don't know.
Okay, the oldest one, she's my step-grandchild. And she said that the little kids beat her up all the time and laugh at her when they beat her up, and that I would allow it. I says, I never allowed them to beat her up. I says, as a matter of fact, the rule for stealing was doing chores, had nothing to do with beating up. And
then you said that the boy couldn't lie.
Right, he can't. I says, as autistic, he don't know how to lie. He just can tell you the way it is. And when I listened to a tape when they did interview him, and they kept saying, so does your grandma let you hit, your other siblings and stuff? He's going, oh no, the rule of the house is no hitting, not allowed. And then they said, well, if you could change one thing about your grandma, what would it change? Oh, I love my grandma. Okay, we know you love your grandma, but if you could change something, what would you like to change? Oh, nothing, I love my grandma. And that's all he kept saying until they stopped asking him. I love my grandma. Where's my grandma? Can I go see my grandma? Because he's been the one that's been traumatized the most out of this, because as I said, I've had him since birth. And literally, he was 9 years old when he left, and he was still sleeping in bed with me because I could not get him to sleep in his own bed. He was really... Huh?
Did they hold that against you?
No, but when he went to his first foster home, they had a problem getting him to go in a room by himself, so they had to put him in a room with his sister, which I think is okay, and I understand why they did it. But I'm using that, of course, as my leverage because it is against the law to have a male and female share after the age of 6. And because they were sharing a room, apparently they decided to play show and tell one day and got caught up doing it. So now who's autistic is this major pedophile, and they had to separate him from his sister, and they put them both in different homes, now a new school. So I'm filing complaints about that and grievances that they separated the two based on the fact that they were doing something in a home where they didn't belong sharing a room in the first place. Had they not been sharing a room, that would have never happened. And she goes, oh, well, these kids got to go because that they require too much supervision. No, not too much, just supervision at all. I mean, not sharing a room would be a good start.
My concern that they're going to have against that argument, they're going to spin it and use the fact that he has slept with you until...
Oh, right. Well, they haven't said that yet, but they have said, because, I mean, I was dealing with therapy before he even left the house. I was really working on getting him out of my bed. I mean, I went out, I bought him a brand new bed, let him pick out the bedding. I mean, we did it together. It was like a team effort, and he would go to bed, and I'd wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning to go to the bathroom, and he'd be laying next to me. I mean, I put a body pillow in between us so that there was no contact. I mean, I was doing, what happened was when he was like a year old, he had rages. Like he'd wake up out of the sleep and he'd start banging his head on things and rolling around the floor and hitting his head on furniture and stuff. So that's kind of how he started in my bed, which was a bad idea because once he got there, he never left. But now he's sleeping on his own. So that's one good thing that came out of it. Trying to say the sexual assault. They said that I shouldn't get him back because, sexually implying that was a behavior of theirs when they lived in the home, which none of that was going on in our home. Matter of fact, one other time when CPS was involved, Shalana was trying to do that, and I caught her in the act, and the social worker bought alarms for the bedroom doors and brought them over to put them on the doors.
Trying to do what?
She was trying to talk the boys into getting naked. I was walking by the bedroom one day, and she was telling his clothes. But the youngest boy. The oldest girl was telling the youngest boy to take off his clothes. But I walked by and caught it, so I stopped it before it happened. And then I told the social worker about it, and she brought us alarms.
You said that the social worker was going to get you alarms?
Yeah, she got us alarms for the bedroom doors, so that way I would know if she had a lot of behavioral issues. I mean, she was a fire starter. Like 6 times she almost caught the house on fire, big fires. And she would she put cleaning solution in one of the bottles of apple juice and tried to pour it for the baby. So that's one of the reasons how this all started, because she had to be watched continuously. Yeah, I slept on the couch because that was another thing. I had to sleep on the couch so I could watch. So I would know if she got up in the middle of the night to try and start a fire or, get naked with somebody or put poison in the apple juice. So that was where they ran with it, because the little kids said, well, for timeouts, they would go in the bedroom. They got timeouts. They had to go to their room and have a timeout there. But they thought it was odd that all the little kids went to their room for a timeout and stand in the kitchen. I said, well, first of all, the little kids, when they would go sent to their rooms because they were throwing a temper tantrum, and I would say, oh, no, you're going to do that. You take it right to your bedroom. Don't come out till you're done. And we couldn't do it with her because she would torch the place or something. I had to have my eyes on her. So there's a very distinct reason why she was in the kitchen for timeouts, so that I could watch her when she was in a timeout. But then they tried to paint the picture like she never got to do anything. She never got to go anywhere. So I sent them all kinds of videos and pictures of me taking all the kids, including sledding, like a week before they got taken out of the house. And she would make trips to Chicago for the summer and stay with my sister, or she would go camping with Salvation Army for 2 weeks. I mean, so I had all kinds of documentation like that. And then they said that I'm on oxygen, so I'm too unhealthy to take care of them because I'm on oxygen 24/7, and I refuse to follow doctor's orders, which I was in a coma 2 years ago when I went in for surgery, and they released me with oxygen, but it's not 24/7, and I'm not following doctor's orders. I use it about 3 days a week, PRN, as needed when I sleep. But, they find something out and they blow it up and embellish it to make it look a lot worse than what it is.
Oh, I know.
Yes. I mean, because a lot of the stuff that they did, there is a grain of truth to it. Like, she did stand in the kitchen for timeouts for 20 or 30 minutes, not all day. And there was times like if she would steal an entire jar of fudge, she'd eat rice that night for supper, but not every day for every meal. So they would take like one thing that happened and blow it up into an abusive situation when it wasn't.
Have you been to court yet?
Only when they tried to terminate my guardianship, and one time in June when they got the disposition order, gave me a chips case. And remember, I told you I agreed to it so I could see Jaden. That one hearing, we went there on June 10th and agreed on all that to have a chips case. And that's the only time this case has been to court.
Has your son gone to court?
Nope, he goes to court the same day as I do. So he hasn't had any hearings either. Literally, these kids, they had their 72-hour hearing. They gave them permission to keep them out of the home. They gave them the 72-hour hearing to keep them out of the home, and then they haven't been back to court since.
And the kids are all separated, right?
Yeah, they're all in separate, well, except 8-year-old and baby are together to be together, but now they're separated because they were sharing a room and did stuff they shouldn't have been by herself without any of them.
Now, why do you feel the kids are sexually interested?
I think when my son was 7 years old, he was experimenting. When I was 7 years old, I got caught playing behind the bushes with the next door neighbor. I just think it's an age thing. They're starting to notice that there's differences between boys and girls, and they're starting to check things out. I don't think there was any malice or pervertedness to it. When I was a kid, it wasn't even considered sexual. It wasn't even considered a thing. I got my ass whipped and I went to bed early that night, and that's about the end of it,
Yeah. I think you were telling me that one or more of the children have been sexually assaulted.
Hypersexual. And I don't know, it could have something to do with her gene makeup because she's never had contact with her father since she's been born. And he's in prison until she's 22 years old for attempted murder. And there was a big write-up in our town about his whole family because apparently the moms and dads were having sex with all the siblings and children and stuff. And she wanted to know why her dad was in prison, and I wouldn't tell her. So I think she looked it up online and found out. But I think that could have something to do with her sexual curiousness. Because one day she came out of school and got on the Salvation Army bus. Very first time she was going to Salvation Army, she goes, guess what? Me and my friend both took off all our clothes and we laid on top of each other. Just random, just spit it out, just jumped on the bus, and that's what she said to a lady she never met before. So I don't know what was going on there.
What do you mean?
Just that she got on the school bus, told the bus driver that she did. She says, guess what? She goes, me and my friend, we had sex. And she goes, what do you mean you had sex? And she goes, I took off my clothes, Olivia took off her clothes, and we laid on top of each other. This was when she was like 9 or 10, and that was her thing that she had, so I don't know where her hypersexualness came from, but she's always been shock factor. She would say things to people and your mouth would be laying on the floor because you were wondering where she got this from. I couldn't believe when the bus driver called me that night to tell me about this conversation. I'm like, what are you talking about? That don't even make sense. Somebody just jumps on a bus and tells you they're having sex with somebody?
Right. Now, but didn't you say that one of them was sexually abused in the home? Not in your home, but in the foster home?
Sexually abused by a 12-year-old in the foster home when she first left, like within 30 days. And they had to move that foster home, or that kid, to a different foster home. And at that time, I said, well, you should have moved his room. She goes, well, there was no other. The supervisor says, well, there was no other rooms to move. I said, yes, there was. And he goes, well, how would you know? Have you ever been there? I said, I'm not an idiot, and I do read the papers. You did say that you sent a 12-year-old to live somewhere else, right? Did he take his bed in his room with him, too, or did that stay?
Who was sexually assaulted?
He turned 8 in January.
Okay. So the 8-year-old girl is sexually assaulted by a 12-year-old boy.
Right.
Do you know what happened?
No, I didn't get the details. They just said that they had to move him. As a matter of fact, I was thinking about that today. I'm going to call and I want to get the details behind that because I want to find out exactly what transpired.
And how did you find out?
They just called me up and they told me that they had to, they had to report it because she had been sexually abused, I suppose, because if she would have told us, she'd have been in trouble for not saying nothing. But then after that, got caught.
She did not tell you?
No, because I've had no contact with her. They're not letting me see any of the kids because I'm the abuser.
Okay. Okay.
So literally, I've been the parent figure because I had guardianship of all of them, and they were all living with me. But I have not had any contact with any of them in the 7, 8 months that they've been out of the house. No phone calls, no letters, no nothing.
How long did you have to go to jail for?
Well, it was Christmas, so there was a lot of court days that were closed because I had to stay there until I got a hearing to go for bail. So I was there for like 4 days, and then after I got out of court, one of my conditions of bail was I was to have no contact with any of my grandkids. And one day school let out early, and I didn't realize it let out early because the kids weren't living with me. And I made the mistake of driving down South 29th Street, which is where an after school program. And they saw me. I didn't see them, but they saw me, and they were all excited about it and stuff. And they told the workers, and the workers came and arrested me for bail jumping because I supposedly drove down that street on purpose to see the kids when I didn't even know. Oh, you knew when they were going to be there. I said, no, I didn't because they went there from school. How would I know what time they get picked up at school? I'm not at school. I only know when they get picked up from here.
Mm-hmm.
So they thought that I orchestrated that on purpose. And then my granddaughter, she's been pulled out of class already at 8 years old by the police, threatening to stab everybody if they don't let her see me.
The 8-year-old?
Yeah, she goes, if you don't let me see my grandma, I'm going to stab you all. And so she got pulled out of school by teachers. She smashed computers at school, knocked everything off counters, had to be locked in a room. I was like, yeah, great, wonderful. See what you created?
What are your thoughts on everything that's going on?
I think that they want to shut me up because I have a big mouth in this town. I've got friends that are judges and friends that are CPS workers, and when I was like I went rounds with the school because of the way they were teaching. They weren't doing anything for her. You know, she was coming home stupider than when she went to school. And so I was fighting with them, and they were having issues because I was calling all kinds of state representatives and stuff about, I don't know if it is in California, but in Wisconsin, you do not have to be trained in how to teach someone with dyslexia. A special ed teacher, no matter, they don't have to be trained to deal with dyslexia. I found that bewildering, and I was really bothered by it. So I was making a bunch of waves about that. And so I think they were just trying to shut me down and find a way to get me out of this. You know, we'll take care of her. We'll put her in jail. She'll be busy fighting her criminal charges. Then she won't have time to worry about us and bother us. That's what I think it all comes down to. Because when my son, even when my son was growing up and stuff, I would always get in the middle of law. Like if he was in trouble with the law, I would always step in between them, and I would say, "No, you're not talking to my kid. He needs a lawyer." Da 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 da. So I wouldn't let him. You know, I know my rights, and I just would not let people around people I didn't want them to be around. You know, in all situations. So I think that was just a problem for them because anybody else they could just walk up to and walk on up in their house, and I'm not like that.
Do you have an attorney for this case?
$20,000 later, yeah, I've got an attorney. Right now, he's working on me because I'm working with CPS, and he's got me this deal where I took the CHIPS case, and I'm supposed to have visitation with my grandkids. That's not happening yet, but now he's kind of focusing on my criminal case because my criminal case, as I said, I'm being charged with 4 counts of emotional trauma, 1 count of great bodily harm, where there was no injuries on anybody, so I don't know where they're getting that from. Nobody was injured. Nobody had to see a doctor about anything. My son said that she has a scar on her chest, and they're trying to say it was me that gave her that, but I don't know how because if you listen to her,
Who has a scar?
my oldest granddaughter, she has a scar. It's a straight mark. It's a scar, and apparently she told them that came from me. But before she told them that came from me, she says my grandma didn't beat me hard enough to leave marks. I don't have any scars from her. And then later on, apparently she said that scar on her chest was from me. But she's a picker. If you look at her legs, she's all scarred up and down her legs from picking. She'll pick her skin until it bleeds, even if there's nothing to pick. She will make nothing into something.
What does this scar look like on her chest?
It's straight. I mean, like, it's not rounded like a nail is. It's just a total straight mark. I think she probably had a scab or a scratch and she picked it or something. No, it's about like that. It's real tiny. It's probably about 1 inch long. And they probably asked her how she got it, and she probably thought, oh, we'll just say grandma did it, even though she already said grandma didn't leave any scars. And
But
then
why,
another,
but why would they say,
why would she say that stuff?
yeah.
Because she was She was very emotionally disturbed. She was the only child that didn't fit in the house. Like, all the other kids were biologically related to all of us except for her. So I think she felt like an outcast. The little kids, she had more responsibility because the little kids they're too young to do this or they can't do that yet. And I think she wanted to go live with her dad because she had just met her dad. He's in prison. She wanted to live with his side of the family. So she had asked several times if she could go live with her dad or she could go live in a group home. And she just wanted to be an only child. She didn't want to have to share the spotlight.
I want to go over some of the comments with you because people have some confusion about your story, so maybe you could help clear it up. My daughter is 10 and my son is 7.
Are they still living at home?
They're home. They're with me.
When I was a foster parent, I used to say, I don't understand why people that don't have their kids don't just get them back. Just do what you're supposed to do and get your damn kids back. Well, I'm living the nightmare, and I know why now. It's easy to, it's hard for them to get your kids, but once they got them, it's even harder to get them back. Because, huh?
You or your son have a case plan?
No, we have a reunification plan. I don't know if that's the same thing as a case plan, but there's things we have to do that they won't let us do. Like, for instance, one of the things is I'm supposed to show an interest in the children by going to school functions, doctor's appointments, and that sort of thing. But yet they tell me if I show up at a doctor's appointment, they're going to have me arrested for having contact with them. So they put things in the plan that I can't possibly do. So I fail.
That doesn't make sense at all.
Right. So I told them that I'm going to court after I finish my classes that I can do. I'm doing everything I can do first. And once I get done with that, I'm going back to court. And I'm going to say, look, they either need to take this out of the court order or allow me to do it. But I'm not going to allow them to sit there and say that I haven't completed this and I haven't completed that when they won't let me do it.
And what about your son? Does he have any?
Yeah, he's because of that charge now with sexual assault, he's got to do all the same classes as me, as parenting class, anger management, mental health assessment, and now they want him to do the sexual thing, but he can't schedule that until he pays them $350, which CPS is supposed to pay for, but they won't pay for it. So he can't take that class until it's paid for. He don't have $350 for it, or it's an assessment.
Let's go over that. You said that he was accused of sexually harassing.
Sexual assault of the oldest one.
How did that come about again?
Just out of the blue. Wasn't I in jail at the time? Arrested January 7th because out of the blue came up with, oh, by the way, I was sexually assaulted by Casey.
And she probably came up with that because Brianna told her, don't worry, you're not going to be going home today.
Right. Brianna was like the social worker was very like, even though when they said, just so you know, I'm a pathological liar. I don't know how to stop. I get in trouble all the time because that's all I do is tell lies about silly stuff that don't even matter. I still lie about it. And Brianna goes, oh, don't worry about it. We're going to believe everything you say. That story, don't worry. You don't have to go home or anything. So I guess she figured she'd just solidify the fact that she didn't have to come back because she thought she was going to be living with her dad's side of the family, but that's not what happened.
Who said they're a pathological liar?
I was telling the social worker, when the social worker came to a house and picked her up and took her back to the police station for a forensic interview.
She said, I lie all the time.
Oh yeah, she didn't say the word pathological. She just said I lie all the time, and I always get in trouble for lying. And people.
Why would she admit to saying I lie all the time?
I don't remember. Maybe because they asked her, she gets into trouble a lot or something. That's probably one of the things that she's most in trouble for is lying.
So it's not like she just said, "Oh, I'm a liar. I lie all the time."
Right.
They said, "Why do you get in trouble?" And she says, "Basically, I'm accused of being a liar."
Right.
And then they said, "Well, we're gonna believe what you say."
Yeah, they said, "Well, don't worry. You can say anything you want to say here, and we're gonna believe everything you say."
She was swearing like it was an oath.
And some of the stuff was bald-faced lies. And when she gets on the stand, if I have to go to trial, they're going to realize exactly, because when you're telling a lie, you have to have good memory. And she don't have a good memory, so she's going to, screw herself up when my attorney cross-examines her.
I thought you guys had a good relationship.
I did. She's a problem child. I mean, we had a good relationship, and we did a lot of stuff together, and I've got pictures that show I took her sledding, and we went on trips and stuff like that. But she still is an only wants to be an only child. Like some people are just born to be defiant. She had opposition or defiance, or it didn't matter what you asked her to do, she would just do the opposite. And I mean, I would even, like, I would tell her, Shalana, why don't you ask me first? And I promise you, I said, if I can say yes, I will say yes. So sometimes when she would actually do the right thing and ask, I'd say, yeah, one day I spent the entire day, didn't even care what she was asking. I would just say, yep, sure can. Yep, yep, you can do that too. And then at the end of the day, I said, she goes, yeah. I said, did you hear no at all today? And she goes, no. I said, wasn't that nice? And she goes, yeah. I said, wouldn't it be so much better before you do stuff without asking if you would attempt to do it the right way first and ask? Because you never know. I might actually say yeah, and then you won't get in trouble at all. She goes, I know, but I can't do that. She's just a defiant child. You know, like my son, he was that way growing up. He was oppositionally defiant. Didn't matter what you told him. If you said the sky was blue, he'd say, no, it's not, it's green. And I even took him to the doctor for that one time to see if there's any treatment for that. And they said, no, it's just behavior management. There's no pill you can give him for that.
So after they tell her that they're going to believe everything that she says, then she says, okay, well, FYI, what did she say? How was the story?
About the sexual assault?
Mm-hmm.
That didn't happen until like a month later when she was in her foster home. Probably when she realized, you know, I guess I'm not going home because I've been here for a month now. She walked up to her foster mom and said that.
Oh, okay, hold on. Because I thought you said that the night that she was taken, and she said,
No, she didn't say it that night. The night that she was taken to the police station and given a forensic interview and talked about the general stuff like standing up in a timeout all day long, eating rice, that kind of stuff. The sexual assault didn't come up until like a month later.
Okay. And she told the foster mom?
She told her foster mom that. So, she's a shock factor kind of kid. I mean, she likes to get people off their game and like, oh my God, really? She likes to say things and then be the center of the crowd all of a sudden because she said it's really bad stuff or really good stuff or.
So what did she say? What was the exact story that she said?
All she said to her foster mom was, I've got a secret and I can't tell you. And then, or did she say, I got a secret and I can't tell you, or I'm going to take it to my grave or something. But anyways, the foster mom called up the social worker and told her that Shalana had I don't know if she told her social worker or her foster mom about the actual sexual abuse, but her foster mom called the social worker and the social worker came, got her and took her to a doctor out of town to be examined or to be talked to.
And what happened?
He got charged with something, but there's no doctor, you know, physical that went on. It was just a talking doctor.
What was said? What did she say happened?
That she's supposedly was at the house and all the other kids were there too, the little kids. So there was 5 kids at the house and her and Casey were in the boys' bedroom and he was kissing on her neck and face and he tried to have sex with her by putting it in, but it was too tight. So he told her that she had to grow up a little bit. And then
What was that? Okay, first, who is Casey? The father?
My son.
Okay.
He's a stepfather.
Right. Now, what was too tight?
Down there, her vagina.
Okay. He said that? So
That's what she said, yeah.
So he's supposedly kissing on her neck and then says,
we're going to have to wait till you get a little older. You're too small right now.
Okay. But then you said, then he takes her in the laundry room.
Yeah, he goes to the bathroom, walks her in the bathroom, and puts her up on top of the washer, which if you saw it's impossible because the washer's up so high, there's no way he could get his in her on top of the washer, first of all. And none of the doors in the house, the bathroom door it's like a barn door that slides, it's on a track.
Yeah.
So literally there's no way of privacy. There's no doors in that house that lock. And my grandson, all the kids were there, and because of his autism, whoever the adult is in the home, He's on their tail. He doesn't stay by himself at all. He follows whoever the adult is. When he's at home with me, he follows me all over the house. Literally sits outside the bathroom when I go. When he's by his dad, he follows his dad all over the house. So literally, if it would have been going on.
And was only adult in the house?
Well, that's the thing with me. And the whole reason she lived with me was so that he wouldn't be put in a situation to be able to be accused of something. And we lived right down the street from each other, so she could go over there anytime she wanted. But at this particular time, Holly was supposedly at work, so there's no way, under no scenario, would I have sent her down by Casey if Holly had to work that day. Because that was the whole reason that she was staying with me to begin with, was to keep them two apart so they weren't alone together.
And this supposedly happened at Casey's house?
One story she said happened 5 years ago, another story happened 2 years ago when her mom was pregnant. So there's been a lot of inconsistency with it. Oh.
But this specific time about her
I
being...
don't know if she gave a time. Did she say what time it happened?
No. I'm asking. This specific time that it supposedly happened was at whose house?
At Casey and Holly's house.
And Casey was the only adult there.
Right. Holly was supposedly gone to work.
And when did this time supposed to have happened?
I don't know. Probably when I was keeping her isolated and not allowing her out of the house.
What year, I'm saying?
One time she said 2 years. The next time she said 5 years.
Okay.
But either time, they didn't have the trailer at any of that time.
So he tells her she's too small and then takes her into the bathroom, puts her on the washing machine, and then they have sex.
Right.
And so when you found out, what was your response?
Well, I was mortified because of the fact that we went through so many ramifications to avoid that very situation from occurring, and now it's being said that it occurred. I mean, the whole reason, Shalena's not even my biological granddaughter. She's not my responsibility. All this happened because I'm accused of beating. I had not even had Shalena in my home. I wouldn't be going through this nightmare right now, and neither would my other grandkids. But for the sake of protecting Casey from being accused of something, and also protecting Shalena and not putting her in a situation where, because there are high statistics with unrelated men. Not that my son's a pervert, but you just want to make sure things like that can't be said. So she's been living with me all this time.
So what is has he been accused or
He's been accused of sexual assault, and it changed from, I think, a molestation or rape. They changed it to the lower one because they can't prove that he had sex with her.
No, they charged me with both.
Oh, they charged him with sexual assault.
Sexual intercourse with a child under the age of 12 and sexual contact with a child under the age of 13.
Sexual intercourse with a child under the age of 12 and sexual contact with a child under the age of 13. I think they threw the contact in was because they can't prove he did anything. But contact, you can walk up, you can brush up against somebody and be having contact.
So does he have to go to jail or anything? I mean, did he go to...
He went to jail initially when he was charged, like for 2 days until he went to had bail hearing and stuff, but now he's out.
I went for like 12 hours.
Or for like 12 hours.
12 hours, got bailed, but I had to sit 30 days because of my probation.
Yeah.
Condition of probation I had to do from prior to getting charged with that.
Yeah, he had to sit 30 days. But it was another condition of probation, and, it wasn't the actual charge itself.
Right. Is that your son there right now?
Right there, yeah.
So right now you're just waiting for court, correct?
Right. I'm waiting for my criminal charges to siphon through, and he's waiting for his criminal charges. And then we have the open chips cases that we're trying to get the kids back under. I'm trying to find out somebody that... Stacey, stop it. I'm trying to find out somebody that would know how to contact Title IV funding so that I can report to them that they never made an effort to reunify us or anything.
And why couldn't the kids go to any family members?
We have given them several family members. They don't want to because they're on an adoption course. They're not on a reunification course. They got a one-track mind, and they've already put in the permanency plan for my grandson who has autism that they're going to send him to Milwaukee to get adopted. They had that plan for him a month after he was taken out of the home. So they're doing what they have to by law to make it look good, like they're trying to work with the family, but that is not their intention at all.
I thought you said that you guys had a reunification plan.
We do, but that they're not working it. Casey's supposed to take a sexual assessment. They refuse to pay for it, so he can't take it. It's the last thing he has to do. That's why they're refusing to pay for it, because once he does that, what is their reasoning for not letting him have the kids? I've got an anger management class. I've got 2 more classes to, and then all my stuff is done with the exception of the stuff they won't let me do.
What is his last class or whatever that
He has the last thing he has to do is do that sexual assessment to see if he has a problem with sexual deviancy or whatever.
What were the other things that he's had to do?
Mental health assessment, parenting class, anger management. He decided to do on his own just to make it look good. That's about it.
What did the mental health assessment come back as?
Yeah, that's an evaluation to see if he's like narcissistic or something.
What were the results?
Yeah.
What were the results?
Oh, he hasn't. Oh, his are fine. He's already turned them in. They're fine. He actually didn't have to have a new one because he had that one from in the hospital when I got guardianship. And so they kept that because they said that was more detailed anyways. And it says he's competent, and it says he has no issues with sexual pervert, whatever the words would be, deviancy. Giving them her family's names to get the kids to go there. They refused to call him and talk to him. My sister tried to call there. They won't consider her a relative because I was adopted, so she's no longer related to me. So anything that we come up with, they find a reason not to use it.
And has Casey's girlfriend, the mother of
The girls?
has she had to do anything?
Yeah, she's got to do the same thing we all have to do. She has to have a mental health evaluation, which she already did. Parenting class, she already did. She's doing anger management right now, I think. And that's basically it, other than they've been on the same visitation schedule since the kids were taken 8 months ago, 1 hour a week. Well, no, because of COVID, they upped it to 2 hours now, 1 day, 2 hours a week. And that's all they get. That, in 9 months, you would think they'd have been able to gravitate to their home to have visits or supervised at the home or unsupervised at the home or something,
Right.
They have not moved off that at all. They're at CPS for 2 hours a week. And the reason for that is because they don't want the kids to think they're coming home because they don't plan on it.
You guys get phone calls or anything like that with the kids?
Phone calls?
Mm-hmm.
No. I call them, and every Monday I send them I sent them last week, I sent them 100 emails because I just want them to know I'm the gift that keeps on giving. And so I want to let them know that I'm just going to keep on giving. So I email them. I leave messages on their voicemail.
100 emails?
Yeah.
You emailed who 100 emails?
Caseworkers, supervisors. Every time I think of a question, instead of making notes and sending them one email, I send them separate emails for all of them because I want to be the gift that keeps on giving. I want all that money that they're making from federal funding to be spent on dealing with me. Like today, every Monday, I try to find out how can I call CBS today and make their day a little bit worse than it was yesterday. So today I called up the supervisor and I said, he said he had in his message he's out until the 24th. I said, well, it's really a shame that you're out to the 24th because I wanted to find out the number to the Title IV funding so I can report you guys for misappropriating funds. But since you're not back until the 24th, I said, I'll just find the number on my own and I'll report it to them instead of you. My sister's always like, you need not, you shouldn't be telling them all that stuff. It's like, no, you know what? I don't want to play games. I don't want to hide stuff. I want them to know exactly what I'm doing because maybe someday somebody will wake up and say, you know what? She's just too much problem. Let's just give her the kids back and go find somebody else to kidnap. So that's what my theory is. It probably ain't going to work, but I figure if they're going to deal with me, they're going to have fun dealing with me. Then, that's all I can do right now until I can get them back.
I wish it worked like that.
So yeah, when they deal with anybody in our family, 3 of them call at a time, and they get on speaker or video, so they have witnesses. And me, when I deal with them, everything's by email. If they call me, I'll send them an email and say, you just called, did you need something? And I'll send them an email because I don't have anything that I can't prove. So.
Brush your teeth, please. So what would you tell people that are watching?
Have have a backup plan. Hope this never happens to you, but have a plan if it does. Talk to family and relatives now and find out if you have a place for your kids to go in the event that you were to die or CPS would get involved, that you already have a plan going. And if you do have the misfortune of having to deal with CPS, don't leave anything up to debate. Have a record of everything. All emails, I don't know what the different states have different rules regarding recording, so that's kind of touchy whether or not it even be allowed in. My thing is I just email everything. I respond to everything by email, and I send questions in email, so that way I can just print out the paper and say, here are all the emails where this stuff was said. Do your plan and don't leave it up for debate. For my stuff, I did my stuff and I gave it to my lawyer and gave my lawyer it to turn in for me. So I have a copy, my lawyer has a copy, and CPS has a copy. So when they go to court and try and say that I didn't do X, Y, or Z, I will have proof that I did. And the extra things that I'm doing on the side that they're not asking me to do, I'm not even telling them about it because I did that once with the anger management. And so now they added it to my reunification papers, like they told me I had to do that. So now when I do stuff on the side, I'm not even going to tell them about it. I'm just going to wait until we go to court, and I'm going to spring it on them in the courtroom. Because that way they can't take credit for making me do something that I decided to do on my own. And I've also been trying to, there's so many people that have problems with CPS, and apparently this is not, talking about it's not, this is going on all over the country. This isn't just in California or in Wisconsin. It's all over the place.
All over the world.
Right. So the only thing I can think to combat it with is why are they get them where it hurts? Why are they doing this? They're doing it for money. So if I can hit them in the pocketbook and make sure whatever money that they are getting in, for my children at least, it's being spent back out and then some. So I want to take away every dollar I possibly can so they're not making money off of my grandchildren. The only thing I know how to do is just, I'm looking into that funding and stuff. It's like, all right, well, I want to take a parenting class. It's $45. Cough it up. I got to take this. Cough it up. Oh, you don't want to pay for it? Okay, well, I'm going to go to court and I'm going to tell the judge to take it out of the papers then. You're either going to pay for it or we're going to take it out of the papers.
Yeah.
And that money adds up because that's why they don't want to reunify, because reunifying costs money. They have to put parenting classes in place. They have to put drug and alcohol classes in place. And they have to send people into homes to teach you how to take care of your home and all that stuff. But with foster care, they get paid and they're not sending any of it out because those people don't need training. So they're keeping the money and gaining the money. Whereas with reunification, they're getting the money and it's going back out.
Well, is there anything else that you'd like to share with us?
No, I think that was pretty big bombshell. Thank God there's nothing else.
Kim, I'd like to stay in touch so that we can get an update.
Oh, absolutely. I don't know, your assistant or whoever called me this morning. She's got my phone number and my email and stuff.
Yes.
So feel free to get it from her and call me, email me, whatever, and I'll keep you posted.
Yeah, let us, because I'm sorry I have the hiccups, but we won't know, when
Right.
anything happens. So you keep in touch with us and let us know.
Yeah, I certainly will. Well, are we done here?
Yeah, like I said, I just want to know what happens with the criminal side. And then if you guys get the kids back.
I should know pretty soon about the criminal because I think I got to go to court in September 16th. And I think that's my last chance to either take a deal or go to trial. So I says, well, I don't know why we have to go to court that day. Just tell them to set it for trial. So we'll see what happens. I says, because I'm not taking, because another reason I wouldn't take, a lot of people take a deal just because so they can wrap it up and not, if they get no jail, because I could be facing 30 years. So people will take a deal, even if they're innocent, if it's a lot less than 30 years or whatever, but it's like, I'm not doing that because whatever I take is going to affect my grandkids. I'll have probation. They're probably going to tell me I can't have contact with them. And I'm not doing that. You know, I'm going to have to go to court and pray that everybody sees it the way I see it because there literally is no evidence of anything.